Hi everyone, this is Diva from Bloodhunter, and you're listening to the Metal Pit podcast.
Hi, welcome to the Metal Pit Podcast. My name is Blake Mossy, your host. I am also the webmaster and owner of our website, which can be found at www.themetalpit.org. And we are also on social media, Facebook and Instagram at The Metal Pit. And we have a new YouTube channel, which can be found at The Metal Pit 666. And recently we have started this podcast. Our podcast will be about all things metal. Some episodes will have interviews, and some episodes will have some of the writers of the Metal Pit and some guests revisiting classic metal albums. Today, I have a special guest with me. I have lead vocalist for Bloodhunter, Diva Satanica. Hi, Diva. How are you today?
Hi, Blake. It's a pleasure to be here with you. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for joining me.
Of course.
I'm sure the winter in Canada is a little different than winter in Spain.
Not really. I mean, we have very cold places here too. Nobody will believe me, but Spanish people will do for sure. We have like in the mountains, we have like maybe 10 degrees below zero or stuff like that. So yeah, it's pretty cold in winter.
Because I was in Spain a few years ago, but it was the summer and it was and it was hot. Yes.
Yeah, it's hot like hell.
Yes. Okay. So yeah, let's see. Oh yeah. So in this episode, we're going to do a little interview first, and then we're going to talk about a classic metal album. But I let Diva pick the album that we're going to talk about today, and she chose Behemoth and their album, The Satanist. So we're going to talk about that in a little while. But first, we're going to talk to Diva before that. But first, I wanted to also mention here, before I start, I'm dedicating this podcast in memory of my good friend, Nick Rom, who was my metal brother and wrote for me with the Metal Pit for many years. He has been gone now for 4 years. He is missed very much by the Metal Pit. I was talking to his lovely widow, Paula, the other day, and we agreed he would have loved to have been a part of these podcasts. I'm sure if he can, he'll be listening to this episode.
I hope he's listening too from somewhere.
I bring Nick up especially on this episode because back in 2010 on the Metal Pit website, we had a feature where we interviewed a female, whether she was in a metal band or maybe she was a metal fan promoting something else. And so late in 2010, he presented me with this interview he did with this alternative model named Diva Satanica.
Oh, wow.
So I can thank him for bringing you to my attention.
So yeah, thank you for connecting us together.
Yes.
Thank you, Nick.
So I was reading through that interview again from 2010, so 13 years ago.
Wow.
And of course, back then you weren't in a band, or you weren't singing, or at least that never came up in the interview anyway. You were just an alternative model.
Mm-hmm.
And you worked for some bands like merch stuff and maybe modeling their merch and stuff like that.
Oh my God, it sounds like a lifetime. It's been only 10 years, but so many things happened in between that. Wow. At that time, yeah, you are right. I was not singing or I was not speaking about my band because it was only a project. So yeah, that was like my very first beginnings in the music industry.
So so at that time you were planning it?
Yeah, because the first demo, it was released like in 2013. So that was my very first time doing anything in relation to music as a musician. Yeah.
Yes. I know. Oh, one of the questions that Nick did ask you was, what were some of your favorite bands? Do you remember do you have a guess on what you would have said your first band was, your favorite band?
No idea, because, when people ask you which one are your favorite bands? You always answer something completely different. It's like you have so many options that probably, I don't know, at that time, probably I said Behemoth too, or maybe Septic Flesh or something like that. I don't
No,
know.
you're right. You did say Behemoth.
Woohoo!
I just thought it was
Yeah,
kind of funny, and that's the band you chose to do a thing about, and that was also the band that you
didn't
picked
change
first
for
back
me.
then.
Yeah, that didn't change. I mean, I've been a huge fan of Behemoth since their very beginnings. They have a lot of albums, and I think they are doing every time better and better with any record that they release. So yeah, I'm sure I was a huge fan then, and I'm still being a huge fan now.
And it's also kind of funny. He asked you about some bands that you'd like to see in concert. You mentioned the
Uh-huh.
band. You mentioned the band Rotting Christ. Who did you ever get to see them in concert?
I think so, but I'm not sure now because yeah, maybe yes, at some festival or something like that. Because at that time, I used to go to some festivals here in Europe, like Hellfest, Masters of Rock. So I
Mhm.
had the chance to see a lot of bands during that years. Before that, it was very difficult for me because I was born in a small village in the northwest of Spain. So all the shows were happening like in the capital.
Yes.
And I had to drive like 6 hours to come to Madrid at that time. And it was
Hmm.
super difficult for me because I was also super young at that age, and I didn't have a car or something to move properly. But
Yes.
then when I just get it, everything became easier.
And he said, or no, you said that you used to write for a Greek metal webzine called, oh, I forget now,
Yeah, I think it was
yeah, I forgot.
Subsistence.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's,
that was like my very first time writing reviews and interviews for anybody. And I just started because they put like an ad on, I don't remember the social media, and I just thought, okay, I have to start from somewhere because I was writing to any music magazines here in Spain, and
yes.
obviously they never answered until some years later. So when I could prove that I had some experience in this field, I started to write for probably the most popular music magazine here in Spain, which is Mariscal Rock or La Heavy Rock now. And that was it. Yeah, that was my very first attempt to get involved into the music industry.
I should have recruited you, but I didn't think about it back then.
That was fun because I had a chance to discover a lot of new bands. We had the chance to have the albums previously they released, and that was amazing because I was like a complete freak, locked down in my room, listening to every single thing that came to my hands, and I've learned a lot. Yeah.
Yes. So when he also asked you about the metal scene in Spain, and it was pretty underground, which it probably still is, because heavy metal really still is underground a lot, unless you're Metallica or Iron Maiden or whatever. But so, what is the metal
Yeah.
scene like now in Spain? Is it similar?
Yeah, it didn't change pretty much since then, because here most part of people love other different kinds of music like pop music or trap in the last years. So that's a mainstream scene, and heavy metal or rock in general, it's like much more difficult to make it for everybody to listen. So yeah, especially for new bands and stuff like that, it's super difficult to get out from here and get a deal with a record label, for example, because most part of them are abroad. They don't exist here in Spain. So it's like the market doesn't trust the Spanish people for this field because, yeah, we are not a poor country, but, we don't sell pretty much in here. People just don't buy albums like they used to do in the 80s, for example. and
Yes.
most part of the tours didn't make it to Spain because it's very difficult to have like a big place to host big bands, and also have like this balance between the smaller bands and that. So when you have a lot of shows, people just have to choose which show they want to see because you don't have money to buy all the tickets. So
Yes.
probably in a week you have three different shows, and you just can go to one. So yeah, that makes very difficult for the bands and for everyone to make something bigger in here.
Yes. When I was in Spain, I actually went, I forget the name of it now, Rock and Metal Fest or something in
Yeah.
Barcelona. Or yes.
Yeah, the Rock Fest. It's
Yeah,
like a
Rock
new
Fest.
one, but it's big and it's one of the best.
Yes. Um, so you joined Bloodhunter in 2012, is that right? Or,
Yes, I started to write lyrics for Bloodhunter at that time, more or less, or probably between 2010 and 2012, because Danny, who was and is the guitar player and founder member of the band, had
yes.
this project like a solo project, because he was involved in too many bands at the same time and super different. So he was playing for a gothic metal band, then for a thrash metal band, then for a alternative progressive whatever, and he had a lot of songs that didn't fit in these projects. So he wanted to start something new, and he contacted a lot of different musicians here in Spain, but nothing happened really. So he knew that I was very interested in occultism, philosophy, and extreme metal. So
Yes.
he just asked me, "Hey, would you like to write some lyrics for a couple of songs?" And I was like, "Yes, of course." I was never thinking, about the chance of singing. I was just committed to write,
Oh,
and
yes.
then the next step obviously was like, why don't you come to the rehearsal room with us and try to sing a couple of these songs? And I was like in panic because I had no idea how to do it. I never sang in front of anyone um, at that time, and I had no idea of what I had to do or about technique or whatever. So I remember myself going to the rehearsal room and singing, looking to the walls, asking everyone to leave until I found like something like a proper sound that I didn't feel ashamed of. And yeah, it was awful. But luckily he had a lot of patience with me, and he supported me a lot during the years, so I could improve and learn. And that's how I started actually. I recorded the first demo in 2012, which was called The First Insurrection,
Mhm.
and we just released it like in the underground scene to try to find more musicians to complete the lineup. And that's how we entered the studio in 2014 to record the first album. So
Yes.
yeah, that was like the very beginning.
That's interesting because I was going to ask you what made you want to be a singer, but it kind of got thrown at you and you took control of it.
Oh, not exactly.
Oh,
But I've been always a fan of music in general, but especially when I discovered the metal scene and the rock music. To me it was like a wow, this is something that I really love, that I really enjoy, and I wish I could be part of something, like I started doing this match thing for bands. Then I tried to get involved into the press as a journalist. And then I really discovered that what I wanted to do was to be part of a band. The problem
yes.
was that I needed to learn how to play any instrument or sing, and that takes a lot of time. So
Yes.
in the beginning it was very difficult, but hey, I didn't give up. And my band my bandmates supported me a lot, so that allowed me to keep on working and trying until I could find like my own technique and sound.
Mhm. And so you're self-taught for singing, or did you go take any lessons?
I tried super hard to take lessons with someone because I was doing something wrong at that time and I had a lot of sore throats.
Hmm.
But yeah, it was very difficult at that time to find a teacher for extreme metal singing. So I remember myself driving to take lessons in a different city, and the time or the day of learning extreme metal singing never came. So I
Yes.
just gave up, like, come on, I want to learn. This is not what I want. And I must say, I was wrong because you need some basic stuff about singing in general, about technique and theory,
Yes.
um, to be able to develop the extreme metal singing technique. So yeah, then I spent like some years trying to find my own technique, and then I came back to have some lessons until I started to play some shows. And between one thing and the other, I discovered a lot of that was the beginning of YouTube and all these singing tutorials. So that was my thing, practicing a lot on my own, asking to a lot of metal vocalists, attending a lot of shows. I remember myself standing in the front row, like trying to study every single movement that they were making, like trying
Hmm.
to learn what they were doing.
Yes.
And it took me a lot of time for sure. And if I had someone to teach me, that would be much better, but I couldn't find it. So I
Hmm.
just tried to keep on working on my own.
And was there any singers really that you really followed the closest, maybe to help you, or was it any singer?
Um, I asked like a couple of singers. At that time, I remember speaking with Adam from Hate, which is a Polish band pretty close to the Behemoth style, or to the singer in a black metal Spanish band called Noctem at those days. But no one could just answer me because we were like, look, I have no idea. I never
Yeah.
took lessons to learn how to do this. So I just do it and I don't know how. So I discovered like this DVD of Melissa Cross that was
Yes.
called The Sound of Screaming. I tried to watch it. It had no subtitles at that time. I had no idea about English. Imagine a Spanish little girl trying to watch this DVD and repeat what she was watching, and that didn't work for sure. So I just kept working on my own, trying to imitate the sounds that they were doing. And I remember that I tried to search for some female singers because I thought it would be easier for me, as I am a woman too.
Yes.
And I started to listen a lot to Holy Moses because Sabina Klassen was like one of the pioneers and the first women in doing this. And I just tried to get familiar with her own technique, what she was doing on stage, how the voice were sounding in the albums, and that led me to discover another vocalist like Tristeza from Astarte, which was a Greek metal band,
Yes.
and also Angela Gozzo at that time from Arch Enemy. She was like the best example for me because at that time she was touring with the band, and I had the chance to see Arch Enemy at that time,
Yes.
um, in different festivals here in Spain and abroad. And that allowed me to study her performance like closer. And I got very interested. I started to search for more videos in YouTube. I found like a workshop of her in the university, trying to get everybody started into the growling experience. And that really helped me too. So I was like taking ideas from here and there. And that's why I try to develop my technique.
Yes. And you mentioned Holy Moses, and I see that you're going to be a guest on their next album, which is also their last album. How did that collaboration come to be?
Oh, that was amazing. Both as a fan and as a musician, it's a huge honor because, as you said, this is going to be the last album of their career. So it's sad, but they deserve to just try to do different stuff, and they have been working a lot during the last decades, so it's time for them to just do other stuff and enjoy themselves the way they want.
Yes.
And last summer I think I was playing a gig somewhere in Europe, and I met with Gerd, the drummer, who was working with Tankard at some festival that I was playing, and we just went into each other like, hey, it's been a long time, blah blah, nice to see you. And he just told me, look, we're going to release a new album next year, and we would like to have you as a guest, so just let me know, what do you think? I was like, of course. Count on me. I'm in. And yeah, after a while he just sent me the track so I could listen to the full song, and that was it. It was an amazing experience, and I'm super grateful for that, because I've been a fan of Holy Moses all my life, and especially of Sabina. So
Yes.
for me, it's like a way to pay tribute to them.
Yes. That's good. And you've done a
Yeah.
few guest spots. Is there any other most memorable ones you've done?
We had the chance to share like a few dates here in Spain some years ago with Night Rage, which
Hmm.
was one of my favorite bands. And they invited me to join them on stage. That was amazing, because they just offered me to sing Frozen, which is one of my favorite songs, because they found out a cover that I did in my YouTube channel of that song. So they just came to me like, look, we saw this and you did amazing, so why don't we do it all together? And I was like, of course. So that was like another one that I remember, like with a lot of love. And also with Camelot, a couple of years ago, they came to play in a festival here in Spain, and I was available. So my management agency for my band Bloodhunter, and their management agency, and Thomas, a guitar player, started to talk about it, and we finally could make it possible. So it was amazing, because it was here in my country, in front of a lot of friends and people that I knew, and with one of my favorite bands, of course. And it was very special, because I didn't do the growl parts in the song.
Yes.
uh, Loud and Hard from Once Human did them, because she
Yes.
was with them on tour at that time, and
Yes.
she's amazing.
She is.
She's
Yes.
an amazing vocalist, and she's super funny and super kind. And the whole experience, it was amazing. We had like some hours hanging out all together, and I enjoyed a lot, because I'm a growler, but I love a lot of bands from different music styles, and Camelot has been probably one of my first into the power metal scene.
Yes.
And I know all the songs, and it was magical for me.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And so, are you recording or a new album now with Bloodhunter, or are you just?
Yeah, look, we released a new album last year, like
Yes.
May 22, 2022, sorry.
Yes.
And it was called Knowledge Was a Prize. We had this album ready to be released since 2020, in the middle of the pandemic situation.
Yes.
So we were thinking what to do, because we knew that it was going to be super difficult to play live and play this album live for everyone.
Yes.
So we just decided to keep it a bit more. And then I joined Nervosa, so everything got much more complicated, because we couldn't make a proper schedule, so we had to postpone some shows. um, and finally we just released the album like last year, and we couldn't have the chance to play pretty much. So we are writing new songs right now. We have like a couple of demos ready, and we would like to release something like probably a first single later this year in 2023, but we are still working on it, you know, because we lost a lot of time, first of all, because of the pandemic situation.
Yes.
And then because of my absence for so many months. So now it's time to work super hard because we already had a couple of offers from record labels. So we need to have something soon so we can just get back on track, you know.
So you probably wouldn't have another album out till next year then, like a full album again?
Yeah, you
If that's
know,
the plan.
this band works insanely. It's like Danny, the founder member and guitar player of the band, he's amazing. He just wakes up one day and he has like 1,000 riffs ready to be part of a new song, and it's amazing to work with them because they are all amazing musicians and they have a lot of stuff. They studied theory, so they know how to mix very different music genres. For example, in this album you can find some references to flamenco with bulerías and some riffs in the guitar, and that's pretty amazing because you will never tell that you could find this in a death metal band.
Yes.
So yeah, it's something like super special, and we want to keep on working like that, you know, just getting new styles and new things to add to our own style.
Yes, and I'm a big fan of your last album there. It was actually number 11
Thank
on
you.
it was number 11 on our top 30 albums of the year.
Thank you so much. That's amazing.
You're welcome. Let's see. Well, is there anything else you wanted to say before we talk about some Behemoth?
I think we already talked about a lot of stuff. If you want, we can just go to the Behemoth record.
Oh, okay. Now for me, but since you suggested this album and I never really listened to them before. I mean, I knew who they were, of course, but I never really took the time to listen to them. But I have listened to the Satanist album a few times to prepare for this. But I can't really say a lot about each song just because I can't compare them to previous albums or because they have 12, I think it is. Yes, they have 12 studio albums now. The last one just came out last year.
Wow, that's a lot.
And the Satanist came out, that was their 10th studio album. And that was in 2000. Oh, I had the year
2014, I think.
Right. 2014.
I remember that because it was at that time when they were playing at some festivals that I had the chance to see this album live for the first time. And I remember it was pretty emotional because at that time, Nergal had just started to speak about his illness, about all the cancer process. So I remember that they were opening the shows with some of the songs in this album. I don't remember if it was Blow Your Trumpets, Gabrielle, or one of those. But he just started the show screaming to everyone like, we are Behemoth and it feels so good to be alive. So everyone was just screaming like crazy, you know, because at once we almost thought that we're going to lose an important musician in our scene. And that was something that at that time didn't happen pretty often. You know, now, sadly, during the last years, we lost a couple of musicians from the scene, but at that time it was not something like very common. So I think all the metal fans of the band and in the metal scene in general, we were like pretty freaked out about losing an important member of this community. So yeah, it was a very emotional time.
Yes, he had a bone marrow transplant in 2011.
Yeah.
And he took a few months off and then they were back at it again.
Yeah, it was amazing. At that time also, I remember, now that we spoke before about Astarte, like at the same time, I think Tristeza died also from cancer. So for me, it was like everything was like um, over my skin, you know, like we had everything so close in the time that it felt like super scary. Like, wow, people from a close age are dying, and the ones that get to survive from this thing, they just keep on going, and they come back like, you know, like heroes from a battle.
Yes.
And yeah, that was very impressive for me. I never had like someone close to me like having cancer or this super serious illness around me. So for me, it was like, wow, this is really happening. People is just really dying very young from this sickness. So I think it was something important for the awareness of everyone, you know.
Yes. That a starty, is that how you say it? A start. Sorry.
Yeah, yeah. I don't
We
know.
sorry. We had an interview with her too, way back, like before of course she passed. But yeah, she was
Yeah,
on their website too. And it was sad when we heard the news about her passing. Yes.
it was devastated for sure. Yeah.
So when did you first hear Behemoth then?
I think, you know, because I got involved into the extreme metal scene like pretty late actually.
Mhm.
I think I discovered like rock and metal at 12, probably 12 years old, because of a TV show, like this kind of um, singing contests, like The Voice or something like that. And
Yes.
there was one girl singing "Living on a Prayer" of Bon Jovi,
Uh-huh.
and for me that was like, oh my god, this is amazing. I have to listen more music like this. So at that time we didn't have YouTube and all of this,
Yes.
so I just remember myself going to the record shop every single week and try to find one of the albums that I was reading about in the magazines. And from that time until I just started to listen some extreme metal, I think it's been a gap of probably 10 years or so. So I think I started to listen to more extreme metal stuff like at the age of 20s or something like
Mhm.
that. And yeah, as I said, I started with Holy Moses, Arch Enemy, and then I just discovered that this movement about the inner circle of the black metal in Norway that was existing in the 90s. I was just fascinated by that, like the whole imagery, like the corpse painting, the drums, the blast beats, everything sounded like super scary and gloomy, and it just grabbed my attention, you know. So I
Mhm.
started to dig into these music genres more, and I just found out Behemoth, which was like another black death metal band. But I think one of the first albums that I bought from them, it was the Telema. I don't remember the year, but probably it was 2000 something. I don't know. I'm not sure about that, but um, it was like it's like the fifth or the sixth studio album of the band. So imagine that was like probably 2000 or something like that.
Sorry, what was the album titled again?
Telema. It
Oh,
was
that, yeah, 2000. Yeah.
2000, right?
Yes.
So I just discovered this album, and it opened my eyes completely, you know, like, wow, I love extreme metal, but this band has something else. Like, for example, with Entombed, you have like this death and roll style, like almost you can dance the songs, you know, right?
Mhm.
And with Behemoth, it was something like super special between the drums, nergal voice. It was something totally different to the other bands for me. So I just
Yes.
wanted to discover more. And with the years, they created like this personal sound that when you listen to a Behemoth song, whatever it is, you really recognize it's them, you know.
Yes.
And another thing that I really love from these guys was like they were completely not scared about being different, you know, because they um, broke like many rules in the black metal scene. They started to wear different clothes on stage, like they have like feathers and jewelry, like no one else was doing that
Yes.
from the black metal scene. So the video clips were with a different story. Everything was much more, you know, far beyond the blood and this kind of things. And that impressed me a lot because they created like this connection between art in general and the extreme metal music. So I really appreciated that. And that's why I think they are one of my favorite albums and bands for sure.
And how would you rate, like you've probably heard a lot of their albums now then. So the Satanist album, it had a lot of, I read it has a lot of high praise from reviewers and critics around. How would you compare it to their other albums? Is it your favorite or?
Yeah, I think it's totally my favorite. I think the Evangelion, I'm not sure it was exactly the previous release of the Satanist, but when they started like working in this new path, it was simply amazing, you know, because everything that they were creating, from the video clips to the albums to the artwork to the songs, whatever, it was something super special. They were taking care about every single detail of everything, and they were delivering such an amazing job, you know, even on stage. When you listen to albums like this or you watch the video clips, you bet that they cannot do the same thing on stage because there's a lot of stuff going on in the video clips, but they
Yes.
managed to do so. And between the lights and intros and Nergal performances, it was something completely out of this world. They were creating a super magical atmosphere, and you could feel from the very first minute of their shows that this was something totally different to the other bands. I think the Satanist has everything that a good album should have. And I think even if you don't enjoy extreme metal, you will find at least one song that you like, because they
Yes.
have many influences from other music styles, other music genres, and it's just an amazing album.
And there's so many guests musicians on the albums, like playing the trombone or the French horn or the cello and all this stuff, and it is hard to portray that live too when you can't take them all with you, of course.
Yeah, but I mean, it's amazing how they manage to have all these elements in the show, even if it's with backing tracks or whatever, but you just don't miss the real thing, you know, because you're so focused on the other stuff that it's going on, like for example Nergal doing fire with something, or yeah, it's just like the perfect definition of entertaining the audience, you know. And it's something that I really appreciate from a live show, when you just are enjoying the show itself. You're not thinking about, oh my god, it's been 20 minutes already, or I have to be here for another hour or something like that, you know.
Yes.
So yeah, I think with this album they just went like a step uh, farther in their career. They created like their own style into the extreme metal industry.
Yes, and they're the lyrics are pretty intense, especially for people that don't listen to this kind of music. Now, for you, I know you're in a band, so you're worrying about lyrics yourself. But as a fan, how important are the lyrics to you when you're listening to a band's albums?
To me, lyrics are super important because, you know, even if you don't understand all the words because you're speaking a different language,
Yes.
when they manage to make you understand like the main message behind it, it's good. You know, that's the most important thing, when you just get emotional with a song because you find something in common with your life. You just give it a different meaning, of course. You know, it's like you identify something in common in between that experience from listening the song to your own life. And that's amazing, because the Satanist speaks about it's a metaphor, really. You know, it's like of course you can take it literally,
Yes.
but Nergal explains that super well in his biography. Being a Satanist or following this philosophy is just following the idea of pursuing your dreams, just trying to follow your dreams as an individual and respecting everyone else, of course, but just try to be a better version of yourself and just standing for that. And that was very important for me at that time, because I was not a teenager anymore, but I was always like pretty obsessed with this idea of doing what you want to do in life and standing for your own rights. And that was for me the Satanist.
Yes. And since they've had such a long career and with the lyrical content, they've had a lot of controversy over the years, but maybe they were even banned in their own country for playing for a while. But I think that was something to do with the Bible, but I'm not going to get into that.
Yeah, I mean, you know, there are some countries that are super strict and they have very strict rules in relation to religion, politics. So Poland, it's a country that it's a super Catholic country, and it's like that. If you say something that goes against that, you're fucked up. I mean, Nergal has been in court many times because of this, and sometimes it's been only because it was a question of marketing and money. You know,
Yes.
not from Nergal, but from politics, because
Yeah.
Nergal has been like a public character there. And yeah, of course, Behemoth had made a lot of money, but it's fair because they have been working for many decades and super hard in very hard circumstances. So it was not for free.
Yes.
But you know, sometimes for the governments, you have to pay your tributes like double the price, because you're doing something that it's not okay. In terms of your own beliefs, you know. And yeah, I think that was it.
Yes. And it's kind of funny that he actually, I'm not sure if this is still true, but he was a barber. He was a barber, and he is a co-owner of 3 different barbershops.
Yeah, I mean, I love that side of Nergal too, because you know, when you think about a black metal guy, you think about the bullet belts and the corpse paint and nothing else. But Nergal is such a classy man. He has a lot of cultural background. He reads a lot. He travels a lot. So he has, you know, like a very diverse background, and he's doing a lot of different stuff in his own life. Like he has a different business, started like this barbershop. He has like a company that sells t-shirts from bands from, you know, from many years ago that are probably out of stock.
Yes.
And yeah, he's like involved in many different things, and I really appreciate that, because it means that he's alive and he's ready to get involved in new stuff, and that's pretty impressive, I think.
Yes, it is. So do you have a favorite song from this album, or do you just...
Probably it's between Blow Your Trumpets, Gabriel, and Oh Father, Oh Satan, Oh Son, which is, I think it's the last one.
Yes.
And yeah, both of them are super epic. You know, they create this whole atmosphere between the Bible topics and individualism, and how you stand for your own thing. Like, this is me. If you don't like it, I don't care. I will keep on going my way. And I really love that, this idea of being committed to yourself and with doing your thing. And this album represents super well this idea of Satan or Lucifer just going against the odds. You know, like it was established that God was the number one, that he just wanted to make things different, and that's why he was um, expelled from heaven. So he just started his own path, and it's like a good metaphor when you're just like different, and you live in an environment where everyone is like mainstream. Metalheads are very familiar with this, I think, because we always feel like the black sheep in general. And I think this album represents that, you know, like freedom and being yourself.
Yes, and it's funny because that was my two favorite songs are also those two songs, even though I've only listened to it a few times, but I do like the longer songs. And yes, "O Father, O Satan, O Son" is 7 minutes. And I
Oh
just love the
yeah.
way "Blow Your Trumpets," Gabriel starts out the album. It's great. And I'll definitely listen to this album more now
Oh
after
yeah,
you
you should.
introduced it to me.
It's amazing. It's an amazing album. And of course, if you don't like extreme metal, it's something hard to do because it's not super melodic. But with this
Mhm.
album, they started to introduce a bit more of melody in the vocals too. And that's something that I really appreciate too as a vocalist, because it shows you that you have different choices, even when you're a growler, of if you are doing screaming. Because of course, when you're a clean singer, you have a lot of options. You can sing with many different techniques and you can create a lot of melodies. But when you're a growler, you only can play with rhythm because you don't have actually like true notes. And it's very difficult to do something that it's not boring and like all the time doing the same thing, you know. And with this album, I think Nergal did an amazing job.
Yes. And so you used to be right for a webzine. So you need to rate this album out of 10.
Of course, 10, 100.
I had a funny feeling you were going to say that.
No, really, I mean it. There's nothing bad that I could say about this album because it actually changed my life. When I had this album in my hands for the first time, it was like, this is what I want to do. Yeah.
That's great. Well, I think our time is about running out here. So I'm going to thank you, Diva, for joining me. This was much fun to talk about this album and to talk about yourself a little before we got started.
Oh, thank you so much. It's been a very cool chat. And yeah, it's amazing to look back into the past and see that we met, or we have been in contact for the last 10 years. So yeah, I really thank you for that. Yeah.
You're welcome, Diva, and I wish you best of luck with Bloodhunter. I hope you're able to come to Canada, North America sometime. I know it's a little costly to do that anymore with the way the world is, but hopefully that
Look,
can
we
still
are
happen.
we are working on it, because if we keep on working like this and we had some offers on the table, maybe we could do it, not this year for sure, but in
Mhm.
the close future for sure. Yeah.
Okay. Well, thank you again, Diva, for joining me today.
Thank you, Blake. It's been a pleasure. Thank you so
Oh,
much.
okay, bye.
Bye.